Hey, this is Austin at Bowler Transmissions. Today I'm going to go over checking and adjusting endplay on a T-56 Magnum transmission. This will be necessary when changing the front cover of the transmission, adding a gasket, or anytime the input shaft, countershaft, or bearings are changed in a rebuild. This can be done when the transmission is apart for a rebuild, or by simply removing the front cover. The input and countershaft endplay tolerance is 0 to 4 thousandths, and this small amount can be difficult to measure for, so it may be necessary to go by the feel of the shaft. The shaft should turn without resistance and have just enough side-to-side movement to feel. We will use Tremec bearing shim kits to adjust clearance. The best way we have found to make sure you have good endplay is to over-shim the bearings and then loosen the clearance about 2 thousandths at a time until the shaft turns free. This can be a slow process, but is critical for performance of the transmission. First, remove the shift rail spring detent on the top of the front cover. Remove all front cover bolts and remove the front cover. Once the cover is off, be sure the blocker rings on fourth gear stay in place and lined up. This is the only part that can come out of place at this time. If the blocker is out of place, the shaft will lock up tight when the cover is installed, regardless of shimming. Make sure all sealing surfaces are free of old sealant and clean before resealing the cover after endplay is set. Remember, if you intend to use a gasket instead of sealant, you will have to shim for about an extra 17 thousandths. Be sure to install the gasket while checking endplay. Remove the shims from underneath the countershaft bearing race. We will start checking endplay on the input shaft only. With only the input shims in place, install the cover with 4 bolts and torque to 30 foot-pounds. Always make sure the bolts are torqued before checking endplay. Remember, if your cover has a pump upgrade, you will need to line up the tabs on the pump with the slots in the countershaft. Also be sure your filter is in place when installing. If the shaft turns free, we will add shims and repeat this process until the shaft is tight with resistance. Then back off the shims about 2 thousandths at a time until the shaft turns free again. There should be just enough side-to-side movement to feel. Once the input shaft endplay is good, reinstall the countershaft shims and repeat the same process. Shim the countershaft until the input shaft is tight, and back off the shims 2 thousandths at a time until it turns free. Once both shafts are set, reseal the cover and torque the bolts to 30 foot-pounds. Reinstall the shift rail detent and use Teflon sealant on the plug. Now, with endplay set, you're good to go. Thanks for watching, we'll see you next time. Turn my hand so awkward.